Is there like a signature thing that you try and do every year?
I designed a prosthetic called a rip-off in 2006, and it's actually a way that you can just tear off your own face.
Is that like something you have to work to get, like some kind of excuse to get to do that?
Just do it for fun.
That was fun. How did Halloween Horror Nights come about?
This is the movie studio that invented the horror movie. We've been making horror movies on this property since the silent film era.
It's Universal, by the way, in case you didn't know where we were.
In 1980s, actually, Halloween Horror Nights started here at this park, and then it went away, and then it came back again in the 90s, then it went away. And then in 2006, myself and my partner, Chris Williams, brought Halloween Horror Nights back with the idea of tying it to real horror movies. We didn't see people trying to create movie quality haunted attractions that felt like you got up out of your movie seat and walked through the movie screen, and licensing these films and doing what we call living horror movies. And ever since then, it's just taken off. This year, we're doing The Walking Dead for the second time, but now we're basing it on season 3. We're also doing The Evil Dead. That's tied to the most recent film that came out. Insidious, that's based on the current film, but also the original film as well. Black Sabbath 13 3D. Grew up listening to Black Sabbath, and now we're working with Ozzy and Geezer and the rest of the band to bring their entire music to life as a 3D attraction. We're doing an original maze, which we've started to do the last few years, and that's called El Cucuy the Boogeyman.
Cool.
And it's based on a centuries-old Latino legend. It's really like doing 6 movies at once when you look at it from a production standpoint. There's thousands of items that we have to create and produce, and nothing's really off the shelf. We hire a lot of makeup artists. In this era of movies, for a while there, I started really worrying that the classic, makeup artists, as we've known them, the people that I worship growing up, like those Stan Winstons, the Rick Bakers, that was almost dying off. And so it's so cool that we get to hire so many makeup artists to do what they do best, and that's what Boneyard does. And it's great to see them bring our creations to life.
Just off the bat, this is the busiest shop I've been to, and I guess that's a testament to the size of Halloween Horror Nights. This is a massive undertaking.
When we're done, we're going to have almost 4,000 just in prosthetics alone. Probably looking at about 150 different designs, but they're used once every night. They're thrown away, so we have to have a new one of these for every single night for every single performer. This is our foam crew, and they just do this basically every single day. For every single minute they're here, they're constantly whipping up this foam latex. Right now, they're filling up a mask mold, as well as they have the facial prosthetic molds here on the table they're filling up.
Look how fast they got it on.
They've got a very small window to get all those things in there because this foam actually can gel very quickly.
Right, it sets up
very fast. They have to get the foam inside the mold to get them strapped closed tightly. And it's affected by the heat and humidity, so on these hot summer days, they really have to go fast.
Well, I was going to say, if people only knew what the amount of work that goes into, making those few minutes of thrills for them walking through these mazes, but now they will know. The cast members, they're just coming in and out.
Usually about every 20 minutes we have another wave of them coming through, and we go about 3.5 hours, we process almost 500 characters in a night.
So you guys are like a mash unit.
When you're doing a film, you may have 2 or 3 hours to create one of these characters, where at Horror Nights, we have maybe 20 to 30 minutes to create that same look.
Do you have this on a lot of the people in mazes?
They always try to squeeze one of these in every year. And a lot of times the people that wear this stuff are known for that. Hey, there's the person that peels off their face.
Well, that's not so scary then if you're going let's go see the face peeler.
It's actually a bleeding bald cap. So blood's gonna rush through this cap and come down the face. We're gonna have an outer face that's magnetically attached on here. So you're gonna be able to tear your face off and put it back on and tear it off and put it back on.
We call our performers scare actors or scarectors. Cool. That's their creativity added to ours and making it even better.
I love how Halloween and horror are giving so many people jobs. How is it for you doing an original maze like El Cucuy as compared to the brands that already exist?
When you're working with The Walking Dead and you have all these television episodes to go through, with El Cucuy, we're doing that same kind of research, but it kind of freed us up to create our own monster like we're making a movie. And Chris got our artists involved, and they came up with this. And this is, how we decided El Cucuy should look for our attraction. In some versions of the story, they talk about his razor-sharp teeth. And then in other versions of the story, they say he lives up in the hills and he has these big ears and he's listening for disobedient children. The origin of El Cucuy, in certain parts of the world, it's El Coco. and it came from Portugal, and it originally referred to jack-o'-lanterns. When you go through the maze, and you'll see this today, he's got kind of a pumpkin fetish.
John Murdy and Chris Williams, the creative team at Universal, come up with all these characters, but come to us as just a 2D drawing. So it's us to basically make that come to life.
So I always write a treatment, and what that really is it goes scene by scene by scene, and it identifies every prop, every scenic element. But when I was writing it, I immediately kind of heard Danny Trejo's voice in my head.
In Mexico, they have a name for this boogeyman. They call him El Cucuy.
It's almost like an original creation of Chris and I. It's just based on an existing legend. It kind of frees us up to get kind of wild.
We've just taken that myth and just expound upon it. I mean, as you can kind of see what's kind of happening here in the backyard.
You have this whole story.
Yeah, and we're trying to visually make it make sense and visually tie into the story as we move through.
Nadie sabe what El Cucuy looks like. No one who has ever met him lived to tell about it.
Wow. Living room. Well, not really the living room.
Some people say that he can change forms and become whatever you fear the most.
Hey Scott, I'm pushing this out so you can check it out, the hands.
Oh, sweet.
So we have a performer back here doing this. They can see a monitor back here, and there's a camera on you actually, so they know exactly when to push this out. We're starting to move into his lair, and we've reached the trophy room. You know, all the kids might be gone that he's eaten, but he can still come back and admire like some of their little toys that he's taken actually.
We can always find short-statured performers, but they're never going to look like they're 10 or 7 years old. So we came up with this idea. He kind of marinates them in pumpkin. He sticks this big pumpkin over their heads, and if you look closely in it, you know, there's like little pumpkin seed tears, like they're crying, which is really messed up. That was a Chris idea. Later in the maze, he rips them open and stuffs pumpkin guts inside their intestines and innards.
So this is one of our effects that we have, and we've got a performer that gets inside here.
Wow.
I've always thought pumpkin guts were disgusting to begin with, but you add blood to it.
Kitchenette area, and then we move out here to his oven. And then we've got an animated character that comes out, and he's a burnt corpse, one of the kids, and as well as he sprays an atomized water blast out of his mouth, actually.
I mean, walking through this maze, and then when you actually think about what's going on.
Totally. Yes.
It's really disturbing.
Every maze is run on a show control system. It's like a ride. We've been doing this a long time now. This is our 8th year.
How's it feel when you hear someone screaming?
Music to our ears, food for our soul. We live for the screams of our guests. It's the ultimate compliment. If we hear people screaming, then it makes us feel good. It's kind of sick, but it's the way we are.
It's perfect. Subscribe to Nerdist. Support shows like Blood and Guts and all the other cool shit they show on the Nerdist channel. It's free. Click here, it's free. Click here for last week's episode of Blood and Guts and find out why you won't fuck with the fish man. New episodes of Blood and Guts every Thursday. Make sure you catch next week because I'm going to be visiting with Tony Gardner from Alterian Effects, and I'm going to be hanging out with one of the most iconic horror characters of all time. It's a surprise.